I'd like to call to order the Village Board meeting of June 3rd, 2013 at 7:04 p.m. And if I can ask the Village Clerk Simsky to please call the roll.
Mayor Gunther.
Present.
The clerk is here. Trustee Addington.
Here.
Trustee Baker.
Here.
Barker. I'm sorry. Baker.
I've been called worse. That's okay.
I thought you said Rusty Baker.
I did too. Baker. I've got to get these corrected.
Los Angeles.
Trustee Barry.
Let's correct that typo.
Trustee Nero.
Here.
Trustee Scott.
Here.
Trustee Seneca. Here. Manager Searle.
Here.
Attorney Zimonek.
Here.
Police Chief Mulhern. Here. Acting Community Development Director Malik. Here. Deputy Fire Chief Connolly. Here. Village Planner Ziegler. She's here. I saw her. Here. I saw her earlier. And I thought I saw our TIP consultant, Savoy, is,
I think they're outside talking.
no, he's right there.
Okay.
I just couldn't see. Okay.
Is that it? If I can ask everyone to please rise and say the pledge with me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, good evening, and just as a reminder, our overhead projector is not working tonight. Unfortunately, we apologize. Under reports, my report, Saturday morning at Brewed Awakening at 10 o'clock, I'll have my first coffee with the mayor. I think Trustee Barker is going to be...
With an R.
Yeah, with an R. Will be joining me there. So if anybody wants to come and just meet, greet us, maybe talk a little bit about the Westmont First,
Sure.
which Bruce would love to talk to. We can do that then. And the other couple things I have are in front of me, the yard signs. The Fresh Market and Cruisin' Night starts this Thursday. And again, Cass Avenue will be closed for the Fresh Market and Cruisin' Nights. It'll be on every Thursday night. And then the Taste of Westmont on July 11th through the 14th. If anybody would like to take some yard signs, we've got some in the back. Please take them and display them. Do not put them in the parkway, or else Clerk Simsky will remove them. So keep them in your yard. We'd love to have them out in the community.
Personally.
She's done it
Personally,
before.
okay.
So
I
that's
do
all
it.
I have for this evening. Clerk.
Okay. I want to remind everybody that there is an economic development meeting Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock a.m. in the executive session room here. And also, there will be a public works meeting on Tuesday, June 11th at 6 o'clock p.m. in the Water Building. And a sympathy to the Fuller family in the death of Doug Fuller. And lastly, a happy birthday to Manager Searle. He tries to get by without us acknowledging it, but
Nobody knows.
Today.
I never forget.
Somebody, one of the staff members today, when they're saying happy birthday, said, well, so what's it like being 30? And I said, I don't know, I don't remember.
That's all I have, thanks.
The attorney.
Nothing, other than I see former trustee Fleming in the audience. Hello, Lee.
Red's back there.
Celebrity night.
And Manager Searle.
I just had a couple things I wanted to remind everybody. As was mentioned last week, we have the Stormwater Committee. We have a deadline of June 7th. If you want to sign up for that, go on to our website. There's a form there that you can fill out. And then under open forum, we had Mrs. Giacobelli here with a question regarding her driveway on Thursday. And the board members got a report from the Public Works Director outlining several different options that we could look at regarding her situation, which was to, I think one of her requests was to consider allowing her to hire a contractor to do the repair on her driveway in the manner that she, would restore it to the way it was before the construction went on in that area. The other options that the Public Works Director had indicated was that typically, based on consistency, we have done what we did in this case. Or a third option would be to refer this issue to the upcoming Public Works Committee meeting to have a discussion about this specific situation and maybe a policy going forward in terms of handling these types of situations. I know he reached out, communicated to the different board members, and I understand that at least several of them were interested in the Public Works Committee option, but I wanted to raise the question and ask the mayor if we could just kind of get a sense from the board what you would like us to do with that situation.
I think after talking to Public Works Director May, his feeling was to bring it before the Public Works Committee on June the 11th, unless a board member
No, I think that's
would like to
good.
address it tonight. We felt that was the best option, so they could look at not only that situation, but any others that may have occurred. So,
And we said that's Tuesday, the 11th?
6 o'clock
6 o'clock, and that'll be
That'll be
over
over there at the water.
at the water,
at the Water Department.
39 East Berlin.
And the resident just left. I told her that it would be later in the evening when we'd be talking about it, so she literally just left here, but she was here today, so.
Okay, well, we can
That was
contact
my
her.
bad.
We can contact her.
Okay.
Yeah, will she be coming back?
No, she can only stay a half hour, so and I
Okay.
said, oh,
We'll
no,
let her
it'll be
know.
much later
We'll
in the
reach out to
meeting,
her.
so.
Yeah, we'll follow her. Follow up with her.
Is that it?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Any board members would like any of the items removed from the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve, please. Addington?
Second,
So
Scott.
approved and second. Can we please have the roll call?
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to unfinished business. The first item is the public hearing, and the board will conduct a public hearing on the Central Business District Tax Increment Financing District. And this public hearing was originally opened on May 2nd, 2013, and has been continued to additional meetings for the purpose of ongoing conversations with Village of Westmont and Community Unit School District 201. And before, as we open the public hearing, I would ask Marie Charlton, who is the president of the school district, to please open the public hearing, and you could be the first person to speak. Then we'll open it up for anybody else who'd like to comment.
Thank you. Thank you all. Mayor Gunter, Westmont Village Board members, and members of the community. I am Marie Charlton, President of the Community Unit School District 201 Board of Education. As you know, the Board of Education of District 201 has had mixed emotions about the proposed Central Business District, TIF district. As residents of the village, we want to see the Central Business District flourish. However, as members of the Board of Education, we were concerned that the TIF district could have an adverse financial impact on the school district. But as you know, the village board and the school board have been able to work together to craft an agreement that allows the TIF district to move forward while protecting the financial interests of the school district. Under the terms of the agreement, District 201 will receive up to $15 million for capital improvements to Manning Elementary School. And Manning is located in the TIF district. Manning is one of our oldest buildings and needs many improvements, with an emphasis on safety for our students. The agreement also gives District 201 a share of the sales tax from new business that move into Westmont as a result of the TIF district. The sales money can be used for operational expenses at all of our schools. This result is a wonderful example of intergovernmental cooperation. It has been possible because village board members and the administration and school board members and the administration have been able to look beyond our own special areas of responsibility and have been willing to act in the best interests of the community as a whole. The school board is happy with this result and thanks the village board for your cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, I am now going to call up Shannon Malik, our Acting Community Development Director, and I apologize, the public hearing, the people in the audience can speak after we make our presentation.
Just because we do not have the projector this evening, we've brought up a sketch that we've used at previous meetings. And for anyone that's watching here in the audience, we'll be happy to stay a little bit later if you'd like to spend some more time looking at that more closely. This evening, I'm pleased to be before you with Consovoy of Teska and Associates. He will be presenting background information on the proposed Central Business District TIF, or Tax Increment Financing District. The public hearing will be conducted shortly, and we have members in the audience here that I'm sure have feedback that they may wish to present. But before we do that, I just wanted to give a few key dates, and then I will turn things over to Con for that introduction. The preliminary draft plan and program and the eligibility study were first heard by the board back in February. Months before that, we agreed to work again with Teska. They were our lead consultant for the 63rd and Cass TIF, and have been doing a good job all along. So we entered into a negotiations and contract to initiate the work for downtown, which is our key business district, really the heartbeat of our community, something that we've spent a lot of time looking at in our comprehensive plan process as well over the last year and a half or so. On February 2nd, Consovoy, myself, Planner Ziegler, Manager Searle, and several trustees were present for a community meeting that took place. The community meeting was necessary because there's a residential component as part of the Central Business District TIF. The meeting was well attended. There was someone in every single seat in the audience. It was a great public forum. There were wonderful questions asked. I felt like personally it was a wonderful way to hear from the residents, hear from the business owners, and then provide them with the information they were looking for firsthand. And at the end of that meeting, something unusual happened. A round of applause took place because the information, I think, had been so well received. Many residents have been telling us through the comp plan that they're hungry to see downtown made into a true destination. So it seemed that there was good positive feedback for that at that meeting. And then there was the Joint Review Board, which took place back in April. On the 26th of April, the Joint Review Board convened again, and the positive recommendation was made at that meeting that the plan and program and eligibility report be adopted. That brings us to last Thursday, May 30th, which Marie Charlton did a good job of summarizing how we got to be here this evening by negotiating together and working for the best outcome for our community. So with that background, I would like to turn it over to Consovoy from Teska Associates. He'll kind of walk everyone back through the TIF 101 and then be happy to answer any questions.
Good evening, Mayor Gunther and members of the board. Good to be back with you. Shannon is correct in that what we did early on in the process is to introduce this project to the community in a community meeting. So what I have to say tonight really is not fundamentally different than a lot of the information that we shared with the community at that time. Therefore, I'm not going to bore you further with a long-winded presentation, but for the purposes of the record, for the purposes of the public hearing, I am going to summarize some of the key findings and key aspects of the report. And also obviously be available for questions of the board and for the community. First of all, and as I have said many times, but I want to reiterate for the purposes of the public hearing, the idea of advancing the redevelopment and planning for downtown is not a new idea. It's certainly not a new idea with us. It dates back over 13 years ago now with the establishment of what was called the Downtown Transit-Oriented Plan back in 2000. And that, at that time, over 13 years ago, that plan recognized and recorded many of the kinds of conditions that we see even today, meaning deterioration of buildings, vacancies, some dilapidation in a downtown that was struggling. And in that report, and now advancing 13 years into the future, your current comprehensive plan also acknowledges the conditions of the downtown like it did back in 2000. Both plans, meaning the TOD plan back in 2000 and the new 2013 comprehensive plan, both have recommended several initiatives to improve downtown, and one of the key initiatives was the establishment of a tax increment financing district. So this has been long supported in the community, and so what we bring before you tonight is hopefully the culmination of all of that effort. I know many people in this room have worked hard at all those years to see this happen. What we did as a part of the planning process to establish a TIF is first to understand if the area is eligible for tax increment financing. There was an eligibility study published. We did an analysis of over 400 some properties in the downtown district, and we determined that it is eligible. The statute establishes a specific criteria for determining eligibility, and we determined that this district would qualify in what's called a conservation area, meaning that first you have to find that 50% or more of the buildings in the district are 35 years old or older, and I think in this case, we easily meet that. I think the number was actually 70. And in addition to that finding, you have to find, of 13 additional criteria, you have to find 3 for which the downtown also meets. And we have found, of those 13, actually 5 additional criteria. And one of the things that I'm introducing today, which we placed on file with the village, an amended redevelopment plan. And the amended plan, now dated May 31st, did several things. One, it responded to a request by the School District 201 to specifically reference improvements to Manning School. And 2, through additional information that was provided to us by the village as a result of the 2012 EAVs being now confirmed, we had to go back and update the report, because this report has been, obviously out there for a while, and the new information was important to determine if in fact we still had sufficient eligibility, most importantly if we had met the criteria for declining EAV. And as many of you probably already know, we now have a district that has evidenced of EAV decline in 4 of the last 5 years. And I don't know where it's going in the future, but this is something that's been on everyone's concern and everyone's heart, I'm sure, is to try to reverse that trend. But just so you know, that was also reaffirmed. We have a redevelopment plan that we put together as a part of this process. The redevelopment plan, for those in the room here, and the board has seen this before, is described on this map. The rough boundaries are for properties basically fronting Naperville on the north down to Dallas on the south, the north-south corridor being Cass, and then Quincy, Burlington being the east-west corridors terminating at Richmond, and then William Street is the extent of the district. That plan identifies potential 29 redevelopment sites. Again, you have to think of this as a long-range plan. This is not any indication to suggest that all these sites will be redeveloped, but these are potential sites that could be redeveloped. It's something that the village would support if a developer were to come forward. Of course, that's the purpose of the plan, to give the village some direction. If development does come forward, what is the preferred use? What are the proposed densities and heights of these types of uses? The various color schemes represented on this map, the orange represent mixed use, generally consisting of retail, office on the ground floor with residential or office above. The red color indicating commercial use, 1 to 2 story commercial use. The tan and townhomes, multifamily residential, additional townhome development, and the darker brown colors are the recommended long-term uses. I'm going to highlight some additional changes that we made to the plan to make sure that, again, as a part of the record, the public and the board has the most current information. I already actually referenced the first change was the fact that you do have an adopted 2013 plan, and we need to make that change right up front, where we previously had referenced your older plan in the process on page 1. On page 16 of the report, under public improvements as requested by school district, 201, we added an item number 12 that specifically reads, rehabilitation, reconstruction, repair, and remodeling of Manning School, including utilities, parking, landscaping, and other site improvements, are now one of the listed specific improvements that would be eligible for tax increment financing and consistent with the agreement that the board has with the school district. On page 18 that follows, there's an list of estimated project cost, a budget for what the potential expenses would be associated with this TIF district. And the significant change is that we've now added Manning School to the third line on that list of improvements and increased the budget by $15 million to reflect the expenses associated over time with that district, increasing that line item to over $24 million and the overall project budget to over $87 million. We also, as a result of the establishment of the new 2012 EAVs, now have actually a lower base EAV on which to forecast future revenues and future assessed value growth. So on page 19, we had to make an adjustment to the projected tax increment, that's meaning the new property taxes that may be generated, again, if all of this development were to occur. And if you've heard me before, we've talked about many times the fact that, we would be lucky to achieve half of this. But nonetheless, the statute asks us to estimate the potential long-term redevelopment of all these sites, and that would be an estimated total revenue increase of over $232 million over the 23 years that we have for the TIF district to be in place. We have a current 2012 assessed value for this district at now just shy of $35 million. And the projected growth, again, if everything were to happen as envisioned on this plan here, we would have an estimated value, assessed value, equalized assessed value of over $331 million. And again, I've said this a couple times before, but even if only half of this were realized, you'd have a growth of over 20% per year. So you can imagine how significant this would be even if half of this development were to occur, and significant over certainly current trends and even past trends. The next change to the report, as I mentioned before, is on page 18 of the eligibility report. And on that page, there's a chart table that describes the increase or decrease in EAV. And again, we adjusted or included now the assessed values for 2012 to document that we have decline in EAV of 4 of the 5 years, that we had the growth of this district compared to the village was not growing as well as the village in 2 of the last 5 years, and was growing at a rate less than CPI for 4 of the last 5 years. So in 2 of those conditions, we have met the requirement of statute for declining EAV. The statute also requires, as Shannon had mentioned before, in a district where there is potential displacement of residents and TIF dollars that may be used to assist developers who would then redevelop properties, to do a housing study to determine, one, what the potential displacement would be if all this development would occur, and what is the availability of replacement, similarly priced replacement housing. That means rental or for sale housing within the general market area. And we looked at the adjacent communities and several other that are documented in the report, and found that there are, in fact, comparable price communities being listed currently in the site trula.com. Provides a listing of available properties. And so that confirms that within this market area there is sufficient flexibility for people to find additional housing if they so choose to live and remain in this area. With that, again, we have provided the updated list of PIN numbers, over 400 PINs, and the current 2012 assessed value, and that's one addition change to the report itself. So with that, I don't have any other comments to make at this time. If there's any questions of the board, I'd be happy to entertain those or the audience.
Well, I think if there's any board questions before we open up to the public, if anybody has any questions, if not, then we will ask if anybody, the attorney does.
Just one thing you might want to touch on, and might answer some questions the public has. One, what does this mean for either resident or business taxes for properties located in the TIF area? And two, if this TIF district is adopted, does this mean the village can come in, use eminent domain, and take their property for redevelopment purposes?
Right. The first answer is to the question about how does it impact you as a property taxpayer. Actually, it has no impact. You as a property taxpayer will continue to pay property tax as you do today, meaning you're not going to pay any less in property tax, and you're not going to pay any more in property tax because of the establishment of a TIF district. So as the various taxing districts increase their levy, increase their rates, as assessed value changes, obviously all those things that affect your property taxes, those will continue to affect your property taxes, and you'll continue to pay. The only difference in the whole idea behind TIF is that the village captures the property taxes that would otherwise go to all the various taxing districts and captures those taxes from all those properties described on that map and puts that into a fund called a TIF fund. And those dollars then can be used to improve properties, to assist developers in meeting their development objectives and encouraging the kind of development. And I made this comment before, and I think it's also important at the public meeting, that these dollars are also available not just to developers, but for existing property owners, both residential and business owners. Now, this is clearly subject to what the village wants to do ultimately with setting up a program, but traditionally these types of things have been done by communities, meaning that these kinds of dollars, or percent of these dollars, could be available to existing businesses to improve their properties, as well as existing residential owners. But again, no program yet to be determined, and that is certainly up to the board as to how to move forward. The second question, John.
Eminent domain.
Thank you. This TIF district does not give the village additional authority, doesn't make it any easier, and does not mean that once established, the village has automatic right to simply come in and take whatever property they want to take. That is absolutely not true. The village has to go, and my guess would be in many cases would not even approach this because of the expense of the eminent domain process, but would have to go through a process, a very involved process, if that were ever to be the case. And this board, I know, has publicly stated before, and this has been true with pretty much every community that I've worked with over the years, and we've done several types of districts, that eminent domain is not something that communities look to use in securing property. Normally how property is secured for redevelopment, it's through a developer interest, a developer company or individual showing up interested to acquire your property and offering a fair price for the property, and that being a private transaction not involving the village.
Thank you. At this time, we'd open it up to the public. If anybody wants to address us, please come to the podium, state your name and address.
Good evening.
Evening.
Mayor, trustees, staff. My name is Norm Chimenti, Chimenti. My wife and I, my wife BJ, Barbara J, are residents of 28 South Grant Street, right around the corner, half a block south of Quincy. We live in in an area which is zoned R3, detached residential, and we note that included in the proposed TIF district is that strip of property which is zoned R5 attached residential on the south side of Quincy. Marked 4 on the chart. I've exchanged email correspondence with trustees Scott on this and with Director Malik previously, and I would ask that hard copies of our email correspondence be made part of the record of this proceeding. I'm happy to furnish it if you don't have it on file. And this occurred in the around mid-February of this year. Our concern and the concern of our neighbors is about the potential expansion of the village central business district into residential areas. We would point out that this would appear to be contrary to the village's 2012 comprehensive plan. And the TIF itself the proposed TIF makes reference to a central business district redevelopment project area, whereas this area south of Quincy that I pointed out earlier, which is currently zoned as R5 detached residential, is not a commercial area. And I would also mention that if you look at what is designated as the central business district in the 2012 plan, comprehensive plan, it would not include that area of residences, detached family residences in the R5 on that south border of Quincy. The 2012 plan recognizes the village as primarily a residential community. We moved here because it's primarily a residential community. Our house is a relatively new house. We built it and invested in it because Westmont is a residential community that has struck a balance, we felt, between commercial uses and residential uses. The 2012 plan also characterizes this area up that I've been referring to immediately south of Quincy, the R5 area, as a buffer area. It recommends that that particular area remain a buffer area between the R3 residences such as ours to the south and the commercial uses to the north and to the east. I'm unnerved a little bit by a reference made tonight by your consultant to money which might be available to displaced persons whose residences may be affected by, or whose ability to continue to reside in Westmont may be affected by, presumably, commercial development. That definitely would apply. That, to me, suggests the possibility, at least, that the area, again, south of Quincy, currently zoned R5, could be used for commercial purposes if a developer came to town and said that they would like to develop it for that purpose, since it is in the what's called the commercial central business district redevelopment TIF. Was mentioned at the whatever meeting that was in May we first attended, May 2nd or 3rd, by a couple of trustees that this does not signal the massive rezoning of properties. On the other hand, we would suggest that any rezoning of the property of those properties south of Quincy's, which act as an R5 buffer to our R3 single-family residences, any rezoning so as to permit commercial uses would be something that we would oppose, and we think that our neighbors would also oppose. If in fact the proposed TIF district is to include those multifamily or attached R5 residential properties along the south side of Quincy, then we think that the legislative action taken by the community should be conditioned on no expansion of commercial uses or rezoning of current residential zone district to non-residential uses, and no other changes in those R5 residential uses along the south side of Quincy that are in your own plan are designated as an appropriate buffer to our detached single-family residences in the R3 to the south. Those are my comments.
Just for the record, in response to some of your remarks, the TIF isn't intended to be a zoning mechanism. So the comprehensive plan and the TIF, those are, ways to generate ideas for what the zoning may ultimately be. But in the plan, sir, the area that you're specifically talking to is intended to remain residential, high-density residential or higher-density residential, to serve as the buffer between the train corridor and then the single-family properties to the south on Quincy and to the north on Burlington. So I just wanted to make it clear that that's not changing as a result of the TIF district. Those properties were included because over the years, some higher density projects have started to go in. We could see that continuing to work to provide that buffer, and possibly if there were enough TIF increment to work with, that would be something that a developer could request assistance on to do a nice new project there.
How far west is the TIF going on Quincy Street?
It goes all the way down to Williams.
So, and it's both sides?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it does include those property. There's still, I think, some of those older that we'd love to see also get redone. I think that's why it was included more than anything else, was to upgrade what faces our railroad tracks more than anything else, if there's any possibilities.
That is correct.
That's right, not to expand commercial, but the
Yeah.
residential would be redeveloped.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else like to address? And you'll have to state your name and where you're now living.
God,
Remember, Lee Fleming, 340 South Washington. I'm here tonight just to say thank you. As everyone knows here, this has been a long, enduring process, and I am very happy to finally see it come to fruition. I thank you for that. Also, now being basically in the middle of this district, the one question that has been posed to me by several of the businesses is what kind of, if any, input will be asked of any of the existing businesses that are there that plan to stay there in this particular district. We're just curious as to if there's going to be any kind of, other than the joint review board, if there's going to be any other kind of committees or anything involving actual existing businesses. That's it. Just want to say thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, we could bring that up Wednesday morning.
Anybody else? If not, any board members? Trustee Addington.
The only comment I want to make is I want to thank Mayor Gunther for taking the bull by the horns and really working this thing out with a compromise with the school system. I think he did a phenomenal job, and this is the way we always want these things to go. Find common ground someplace, and then you move forward. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, then I will officially close the public hearing, and we'll move on to new business. 502, 532 Oak Avenue, Kayla's Crossing lot coverage variation. The board to consider an ordinance approving a zoning code variance request from Paul McNaughton to McNaughton Development for 6 lots in the Kayla Crossing subdivision to allow lot coverage greater than the 35% maximum allowed. It's open for board discussion.
Oh, don't we need a motion first?
Or a motion,
Yes,
yes.
it is official
So moved,
meeting.
Seneca.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, make a motion and a second, then it's
Motion
open
was
for
made by Seneca, seconded by
Second.
Barry,
No, we got it over here.
Oh.
right there.
We need those buzzards.
I don't see.
So
Okay.
with Seneca Nero?
Yes.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Yes, Mother.
Okay, motion was made and seconded on the question.
I'm really struggling with this because I know we worked long and hard to come up with a lot coverage that we thought worked for our community. And while I'm really happy that that we have a builder that wants to come up and build an upscale home, my concern is still 40% lot coverage means they cannot add a deck, they cannot add a pool, they can't put in a shed without first spending money, going through the process and asking for a variance. So, for me to put a resident, an unknowing resident in that position, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable that the ordinance we worked so hard to come up with in at least 6 cases could end up having 2 variances. I don't feel comfortable, and I know that Mr. McNaughton said that it would be more like 37%, which would leave some room for, a patio or a deck or whatever. Then maybe that's what he should ask for. So I'm just I'm just not comfortable with it right now. So I'd be interested to hear what everybody else thinks.
You do have the right to approve a number other than 40% if you so choose.
I've walked the property a couple times. As we talked about the other evening, I was hesitant because of the recent flooding problems that we've seen. Again, I agree with you, Sue, that I think that when moving forward, it will be on the residents to get that variance who are here to stay and can get a feeling that the village doesn't want to work with them because we have those strict ordinances in place. Again, I agree with the 37 to 38%. We should maybe look at those as an individual basis. Has been pointed out to me that maybe instead of doing all 6 at once, we would look at each individual, that, this particular one sold with a 3-car garage or so forth. Which brings me to the question, when I was surveying the property, it looks like a lot of them are sold already, it says on the sign. Are they sold under the premise that they're 3-car garages, or where would that be? That was one question that I specifically had, because it appears that maybe 4 of them are sold.
Yeah, on the sign, we've taken lot deposits on a number of the lots, and usually we put up a sold sign when we have a lot deposit, because we figure that we're going to work through architecture with these customers to produce a sale. So a majority, I believe there's 3 sold homes right now. We just picked up a permit for lot 8 today. So there's 3 homes that will be fixed in terms of lot coverage at 35%. And then the majority of the architecture that we're working through with the customers that we do have deposits on incorporate elements like 3-car garages that we cannot do under the existing ordinance. So.
Thank you.
Trustee Addington.
I also went over there and I've kind of kicked this thing around in my head. I'm in the same boat that I think Harold and Sue is. My problem right now is that we've just gone through an event in April. We held public hearings. We've kind of said to people, we're going to work on your problems. And all of a sudden, one of the first things that comes in front of the village board is to increase a lot size coverage. I think it's a wrong signal. And I would much rather see us say no to this and then tell McNaughton that we'll work with them on an individual basis if there's a request to increase the size, rather than just give them the blanket coverage. I just think, to me, that makes more sense.
That was really part of I drove over there as well, but it was part of my question last week about pervious pavers in the driveway, and certainly we could do something there as well as decks in the backyard that way to reduce the coverage. I don't know if that is, off the table altogether. I know the higher end homes typically do things like that. I understand that the stormwater, I believe that argument is not the case. If we're checking it and the county is checking it, I think that is really a non-issue there. But I do want to be able to see these people expand their properties, their backyards, their patios, their walkways, and all of that stuff as well going forward.
As much as we want these, $700,000 homes to be built here in Westmont, we do have an obligation, I think, to the future residents that, there's that question of if, like Sue said, I mean, you made a perfect point. If someone wants to build a deck or a patio in the future and now they can't because their coverage is already met or exceeded, I think that's an issue there. So I'm okay with Trustee Addington's idea of taking them as an individual basis if it's really need be, if that individual homeowner really wants it.
With the board's permission, can we ask the petitioner to come up? I know we don't typically have that on a Monday. I just had a question for the
You can ask him to come back to the podium, yes.
Are these custom homes, or are they sort of, I have these 3 models or 5 models, and this is what you pick from?
We offer custom services to each of our build order customers. We have the 3 different homes that we did over at Hidden View. We offer those homes. We tell our customers that building those homes is the best way to keep prices down because we've already built them, and we can lock our subcontractors into pricing. People are very concerned about pricing these days too. So no, we do offer custom homes. One person in particular we're working with on a lot deposit, designed a home from scratch. Some other people have modified the homes that we built over at Hidden View. So it's just a variety of stuff that we do. So, if I could just comment on what seems to be the sort of argument of the day, where the board seems to be a little bit concerned about the fact that if we increase the impervious coverage to 40%, residents are going to have to come in for another variation down the road to add a deck or a walk or a patio. But that's the situation right now, because if we are going to build these homes at the maximum lot coverage of 35% right now. I think it's a much better situation for the board if you grant the variation, allowing us to build what we think is going to be around that 37-38% range, and then you still have a little buffer for residents to be able to add some impervious to their lots without coming and asking the board every time for a variation. And the other thing that people have been talking about, come in on an individual basis, it's just very difficult in this environment to allot the time to have to come in every time that you need a variation on a lot for impervious coverage to do that. And these deals are hard enough to put together as it is. People are concerned about pricing, getting architects to timely draw plans, the building permit process, just everything. And it's a very difficult process as it is. Builders are finally starting to get back to work after 5 years of really not doing much. And I think that the request is grounded in something that is legitimate. We've oversized our pond to accommodate 40% impervious coverage, so that's why we're asking for it. We're not coming in and asking for a handout. And I do think that the request is narrowly tailored for the purpose that it's being requested for, which is basically 3-car garages. We're not asking for 5% across all 8 lots. We're asking for it across essentially 5 lots, because the one we just picked up the building permit on, will be set at 35%. So.
When we, and I know Trustee Scott was on the board, I can't remember if Trustee Nero was, when we settled on 35%, the reason we even looked at that was we were having requests come before us that were, inching up 42, 43%. So we kind of settled on 35, thinking it gives us some wiggle room up to 40%. So now if we approve something at 40%, we could potentially be looking at 42, 43%. And while I don't think we have a significant flooding issue in that area, and I'm very comfortable with the detention in that, the other piece of it is simple green space. We never pretended to want to be a Hinsdale where the houses are, 4 feet apart and practically up to the the property line. So, it's a tough one for me. It's a tough one for me because I understand the need. I can see both sides of it. But if I'm buying this big, beautiful home and I'm excited and I buy it, and now, I want to put a pool in for my kids, and I want to, put a patio, And I come for my permit, and I hear, you can't do that. You know, you've got to spend money and have it posted and go through a variance, and, you know, I'm just kind of thinking of the purchaser there, too. And, you know.
And we're the ones that they come to, and you're gone already.
Right.
Well, your future purchasers, at least in this subdivision, are all aware of the lot coverage ordinance.
So they know they can't put a patio in?
Well, they know from the start that the lot coverage is 35%. It's not something that we like to get into with our purchasers, but given the nature of the ordinance, we have to explain it to them.
You have to explain it to them.
Because we have to design a home that works on the lot that they're purchasing. So all of them know. I mean, I've got a deal pending right now that basically is dependent on this variation. I mean, now, can we do a permeable paver? Hopefully, if that ordinance gets adopted tonight, which is a great idea. I'm glad that staff brought it. I think it's a great idea. It's a perfect balance between helping the developer out when he needs it and also serving a village interest of stormwater. But, you know, that's another thing that our customer and your future resident is going to have to pay for. I mean, I think I told you last on Thursday that, you know, permeable pavers are about 2.5 times the cost of concrete. So that's just another cost that, you know, we pass on to our buyers, and sometimes they throw it back at us. And it makes the deal even harder than it already is, which I've explained to you why it's so hard putting these deals together today. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other?
Well, then you've got the issue of the second buyer. The person who they sell the house to, it's built, the first person buys it, then the second person comes in who has no clue of what's going on, and that just happens to be the way it is at that point. The village would have to say no. Yeah, this isn't an easy one at all. 37%? They know it going in?
I'm okay with that.
I could live with that, and that's just, there's that wiggle room at that point.
Gives them the extra
Because again,
couple percent.
when you max out that 40, and then we start adding things or giving variances, you know, we're creeping up on 45, 50, versus if it's 37 and somebody puts another 5%, we're only at, you know, the 42 versus creeping that. And again, if it's 37 or 38 is what's needed, I would be okay with that also.
Okay with 37, plus now with the permeable pavers and all the deck modification, I think that would be pretty useful.
I'll go 37.5. Split the difference, you know?
We're in an auction. So I guess we need a motion to amend the motion, if that's the board's pleasure, who made to amend it to 37, 37 and a half?
One more question. I know 37, 37 and a half. Can we do something as a total? You know, if one's 40 and the other are 35?
Combine the two.
Or you're still going to end up with overage on the 40? Yeah. Okay.
I see where you're going.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we make it 37%.
Second.
So just because we have a motion and a second already, can you make an amendment to the original motion?
Amend the original motion to make it 37%.
Can we add something onto that? 37%, yes, but, well, I guess it wouldn't be in this ordinance if he hasn't sold every lot, and now we gave him 37, and he's down to like one lot, you know, maybe we go, you know, maybe could he come back and ask maybe for 38 or 39 on one lot? Are we doing this across the board for everything?
This is 6 of the 8 lots.
So it's-
Even though he
or
said
5?
one lot's coming in at 35%, I think you give some wiggle room if they want to put a patio or oversize their patio. But what I would recommend is, just because of the public hearing process, et cetera, if you set it at 37%, if a resident wants to come back, you'd have to take it on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, that's what I was
They can come
getting
back.
at.
Okay.
We can still do that.
So
Okay.
was a motion, did I hear a second?
Second.
To amend it to 37%.
Yes, sir.
On the question.
Just procedurally, and, sorry, I don't mean to
That's
cut off
okay.
your
No,
question.
no.
What we should do first is vote on the amendment. If that passes, then you're going to vote on the original motion as amended.
Oh,
So there's going to be 2 votes here,
okay.
subject to any other questions.
Are there any other questions?
But I just thought that it would have been better to look at them at kind of like you're saying, on the individual basis, whereas if you did have one sold at 40%, and we said, hey, that one was sold, or 38, you know, I know that it didn't want to jump through those hoops, but.
That could be a hardship, too, for them to.
So
yeah,
37 is.
for him to-
37, and the point is, an individual lot can come back and ask for more.
Come back and ask
Absolutely.
for more.
So we need 2 votes. The first one will be
The amended.
On the amendment.
on the amendment. So if seeing no other questions, anybody from the public? If not, I'll ask for a roll call.
This is on the amended. Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
And now we need a vote on
The original.
the original
And we have the motion and everything, so. As amended.
as amended.
Just roll call.
Just a roll call, please.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to the agenda item B, the Class 4 liquor license sweet and savory spot.
Motion to approve, Addington.
Second, Barry.
Motion to approve on the question.
Sorry.
Seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Nero. Did I call you already?
Yes.
Thank God. I get confused sometimes when I move it around.
Agenda item C, the Class B tobacco license, and I know we've asked this to be postponed.
Or no, what we're doing is voting to increase it by 1 to account for the existing license,
The housekeeping.
sales that are out there.
This is housekeeping because we
House
counted.
cleaning, it's not the other one.
But the Westmont Quick Mart withdrew their request.
Withdrew theirs. So this one, we're gonna, we need a motion to increase the Class B tobacco license.
Motion, Addington.
Second, Scott.
On the question, roll call.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Agenda item D, the award of bid proposal. Manager Cyril.
Okay, board to consider an ordinance approving the bid and awarding the construction contract for the 60th Street Stream Bank Stabilization Project to Nettle Creek Nursery.
Motion to approve, Nero?
Second, Addington.
On the question, roll call.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Agenda item E, the engineering monitoring services, 60th Street Stream Bank Stabilization Project.
Board to consider an ordinance approving an agreement with Burns and McDonnell for the engineering monitoring services of the 60th Street Stream Bank Stabilization Project.
Motion to approve, Scott.
Second, Addington.
On the question, seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Agenda item F, pervious paver text amendment.
Board to consider an ordinance approving a text amendment to the zoning code to allow pervious pavers and pervious asphalt and similar material to be counted at 50% toward lot coverage.
So move, Seneca.
Second, Nero?
On the question? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Agenda item G, licensing provisions for dogs.
Board to consider an ordinance to amend Village Code Chapter 14, Domesticated Animals Licensing Requirement for Dogs. This was discussed during the budget process, essentially removing the requirement for residents to purchase dog tags.
Motion to approve, Scott.
Second, Addington.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Agenda item H, places for eating tax.
Okay, board to consider a motion to postpone until the June 13th committee of the whole meeting. Further discussion and consideration of an ordinance adopting a 1/2 cents or 1/2% places for eating tax. This was discussed Thursday so that we give an opportunity to get more information out to the potentially affected business owners and business operators so that they could possibly attend the June 13th meeting to give some input. And we will work with the Chamber of Commerce to do so.
Motion to table, Addington.
Second?
Postpone, excuse me.
Second, Barker.
And a question? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Agenda item I, Community Stormwater Management Ad Hoc Committee.
Board to consider a motion to postpone until the June 13th committee of the whole meeting. Further discussion, consideration, and ordinance to create an ad hoc committee to review and make recommendations regarding community stormwater management and village infrastructure. And as I mentioned earlier, we're accepting interested parties that if they want to apply online until June 7th, they can do so.
Motion to postpone, Barker.
Second, Seneca?
And a question? Roll call, please.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Agenda item J, Village Board Committee assignments for 2013.
Motion to approve, Scott.
Second.
Nero.
Third.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Agenda item K, the village right-of-way dedication.
Board to consider a motion to postpone until June 13th committee of the whole meeting. Further discussion and consideration of an ordinance adopting an honorary designation of an existing
Village Street.
village street.
Motion to postpone, Seneca.
Second, Nero.
Nero. Any questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Agenda item L, Angel Haven Foundation.
Board to consider a motion approving the following request from Angel Haven Foundation, a not-for-profit corporation, for their annual fundraiser yard sale. Point one is to approve the 4-day yard sale at 213 East 55th Street, June 20th to 23rd, from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. Point two was a request for a waiver of tent permit fees for the yard sale. And point three was a waiver of the costs of utilizing the village's loan a truck program.
Motion to approve, Barry?
Second, Addington.
Any question? None, roll call, please.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Any other miscellaneous items? I know that Wednesday morning, you have a EDC meeting at 9 a.m. here.
Here.
And then on June the 11th, there's a Public Works meeting at 6 o'clock at the Water Department.
Yep.
And just for public consumption or anybody that would like to send their thoughts in, June 10th over at the Chamber offices, we're going to meet to discuss the red, white, and barbecue, kind of a shakedown meeting. So any thoughts anyone has to improve, make better, whatever, you can send them to me and I'll be more than happy to take them to the meeting. And then the only other thing, John, is in the future when we change the format, as we were doing tonight, when we're going to vote the same night now, will we be putting on the table every item before we discuss it? Because we're voting the same night now.
Yes, it will be like a combined committee of the whole voting meeting. So you'll have your discussion, you'll have the ordinances as early as possible. And then if you're comfortable voting, you'll vote. And if not, then this will take really one trustee saying, I'd like to postpone it to the next set of meetings.
And then you put it off, okay.
And just for the public's information, that starts July the 11th, and we'll have every other Thursday we'll be meeting. It'll be our regular schedule. Again, brush pickup will begin, I'll say it again, June 9th for north of the tracks and June 16th south of the tracks. Anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second by Barry.
I'm sorry, who made the motion? I heard you second.
You seconded, I'll.
You seconded before someone made it. Way to go, here.
He's ready.
I motion to adjourn.
He wants to get out of here, huh?
See that game
That was
7?
pretty good. All right.
So you make the motion, and who's second?
Second it.
I'll second it. I made the motion after he made the second, but that's all right.
Well,
That's 6:01.
We'll have a roll call, please.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
And thank you. Meeting will be adjourned.